It is Shannon from Only Shannon Knows coming to you with some heartbreaking news. As most of you have heard, Hayden Panettiere has passed away yesterday. Initial reports were she was unresponsive. They still do not have exactly the cause of her passing. However, there is some speculation, at least people.com is reporting, that it is an overdose. So let's delve into this. I'll give you a little bit of my insights as well. I'm reading this for the first time myself. And then I also want to talk about her book that I ordered it last night. So I'm going to get that and read that. And I would love to share some of that with all of you because it's really amazing to me, the struggles within the industry and the struggles that she had specifically among many young child actor and actresses. So what people is saying is that she suffered an apparent overdose. She was found unresponsive in South Carolina and pronounced dead despite advanced life-saving support. Authorities are still investigating her death. Now, I will say this, and I'll delve into, bear with me here, I will delve into what they are talking about, what the police were saying. However, one of the items is it's probably going to be a while until we really know the true cause of her death. One thing we do know is there was not trauma to her body. But when it comes to an autopsy and looking at toxicology reports and items like that, depending on how long she had been unresponsive, it will take a while for those to come out. My late husband, he had been gone for about a month, and it took a couple of months for them to get those toxicology reports back. Now, that's also different because his body was decomposed. So I had to identify him by his tattoo. That tells you how badly decomposed his body was, which is a little bit different from Hayden. Anyway, so new details have been released about the last moment of Hayden's life. Police officers and EMS personnel responded to reports of an unresponsive female, later identified as Hayden. She is 36 years old. They found her at a residence in Greenville, South Carolina, around 1:51 p.m. They did try to resuscitate her. According to dispatch audio obtained by People, officials were heard discussing an overdose and a cardiac arrest around the time of Hayden's death. The preliminary investigation has not indicated any signs of foul play or suspicious circumstances. So that's the spokesperson from the Greenville Police Department had stated. An acquaintance of Hayden's is the one who placed the 911 call. So that's what we know. We don't know how long Hayden was unresponsive before they actually got there. The police department said that they answered a 911 call at approximately 1:51 p.m. on August 16th. First responders and emergency medical services arrived on the scene and located the female in cardiac arrest. EMS personnel initiated advanced cardiac life support measures. However, the resuscitation efforts were unsuccessful and the individual was pronounced deceased at 2:32 p.m. So it sounds as though she probably had just passed or was having issues as whoever the person was that called 911. It sounds as though she really struggled and they tried to revive her and they were unable to revive her. At autopsy, no signs of trauma were discovered that would have contributed to the death. So this is the initial autopsy report. They're going to go through and look at the body just to look for any signs of trauma or anything else. So they are going to be able to see if there was any trauma to the body. Why they can't say how she passed away is because they do have to send everything away for the toxicology reports, and they have to get that back before they can actually determine what the cause of death is. Now, they are not specifying whether there was any thing inside of her body. For example, a fatty liver would show that there potentially could have been heavy alcohol abuse. So they're not stating how her organs were as well. They're just stating that they didn't see any trauma, which means there's not any foul play. So that'll be interesting as we learn more. So stay tuned. Definitely subscribe because I am going to stay on top of this story. It is very interesting, very sad, very interesting though. I can't wait to start reading her book, and I'll get into that as well. Oh, on August 17th, a source tells people that Narcan was found at the scene. So Narcan is used to resuscitate somebody who has had an overdose. Narcan is a treatment designed to rapidly reverse the effects of life-threatening opioid emergency. Now, I do know Narcan does not work on these upcoming or these current drugs that people are utilizing, the tranq that is out there. I am not saying that's what she had, but I do know that with the tranq, Narcan does not work on tranq. It'll be interesting again to see what type of substance that they did find in her body after we get the results of the toxicology report. So she starred in One Life to Live, and then she had high-profile roles in Heroes, Nashville, and Scream, the franchise. She leaves behind an 11-year-old daughter, Kaya, shared with her former fiance. And I will say this, and this is so incredibly sad because leaving behind a child, now I know she didn't have custody of her daughter. She had given up custody to her former fiance. However, it is so incredibly hard for a child to understand why their parent would choose a substance over them. My children to this day, both of them, wonder why their dad did not stop drinking, and he drank himself to death. He did drugs as well, but the main reason for his death was alcohol. And that's one of the hardest things that you can ever do to a child, one of them, because they just don't understand. They don't understand why you do what you do. And it's a disease, and all of us know that it's a disease, but as a child, you don't know what that means. And so right now, we need to lift her daughter up in prayer, lift her family up in prayer, and hopefully this story, however it unfolds, really brings light and sheds light to the dark depths of addiction, young Hollywood actors and actresses, the pressures that they have. Let me go into her book as well. Okay, so this is Hayden's book called This Is Me. This is about the book, which kind of gives us a little bit more information into Hayden and her life and her struggles. So her career in entertainment began before she was old enough to walk, from early commercials to film and television roles in hits like Remember the Titans. Her career unfolded in the public eye, resulting in tremendous success by her early teens. She had become a fixture of early 2000s pop culture, earning acclaim for her performance in Heroes, Nashville, and beyond, while quietly carrying the weight of expectations that came with being Hollywood's it girl. Behind the images was a far more complicated reality. As Hayden entered adulthood, the industry that once felt playful grew unforgiving as she learned by experience the pressure placed on young performers, the hefty price that often comes with fame, and how quickly someone else can take control of your story. She recounts being scrutinized by tabloids, watching her body and private pain become public property, and performing storylines on screen that echoed trauma that she was living through off camera, which I cannot imagine. what she has had to go through. You're under the public's thumb, and people are consistently looking at you and judging you. And it is just a really difficult situation to be in. And I can't imagine being in that situation. What I love is that this is a memoir. And Hayden, what she does is she shares her intimate glimpse into her life behind the closed doors, opening up about postpartum depression, addiction and recovery, trauma, domestic abuse, and loss. She holds nothing back as she reflects on the moments she calls life quakes, experiences that fractured her sense of self and forced her to rebuild it from the inside out. In This Is Me, A Reckoning, Hayden showcases her most vulnerable role yet. This is her story on her terms. And that is really, I commend her, and unfortunately she is not still with us, but I commend her for writing this book. This is something I know I personally have wanted to do with regards to my story, domestic abuse, living with multiple addicts, not even just my late husband. Addiction runs in our family as well, in my family, and then in my late husband's family. And the trauma, the domestic abuse, the verbal abuse, the other types of abuse is real. And hopefully bringing light into it and talking about it will hopefully prevent it from continuing to happen. Or should I say, hopefully it allows people to realize that there is help out there and you can get help when you are struggling. And so right now, if you are struggling, there is help that is available. You can always call authorities. It is, I will say, this is one of the most difficult things to do. Sometimes you don't even know if you should do it when you're the one being abused. And I just recommend you do it. Document everything. And with regards to Hayden, we just need to lift her up in prayer, lift her family up in prayer. And I know that this is a difficult time, especially for her daughter. And so what we need to do is use this as a learning lesson, spread awareness, and hopefully some good can come out of this very, very terrible situation. So thank you all for joining me with another story. Come back and be sure to like this video if you would like some more, comment, subscribe. I would love to talk more about this, especially once I get this book. Thank you.